Imagine lying in a hospital bed, unable to move, unable to speak, while the two people you trusted most in your life stand right beside you, waiting for you to die. That was me. The steady beep of the heart monitor echoed through the cold room in Boston. Outside the window, I could barely see the faint lights reflecting off the Charles River, a view I used to love. But in that moment, none of it mattered, because my own brother, Michael Carter, and my wife, Emily Carter, were standing over me as the doctor quietly shook his head. To them I was already gone. The steady beep of the heart monitor echoed through the cold hospital room in Boston, each sound stretching into the silence like a reminder that I was still here, even if no one else believed it. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and something metallic, the kind of scent that clings to places where life hangs by a thread. I couldn't move. I couldn't open my eyes. My body felt heavy, like it no longer belonged to me. But my mind was awake, alert, trapped inside a prison of flesh that refused to respond. Beyond the thin curtain of stillness, I could sense movement, soft footsteps, the rustle of fabric, the quiet murmur of voices that didn't bother to hide their tone. Somewhere near the window, faint, light filtered in, reflecting from the distant waters of the Charles River. I used to stand there, looking out at that view, thinking about everything I had built, everything I had worked for. It used to mean something. Now it felt like a memory from another life, slipping further away with every passing second. A doctor's voice broke the silence, low, careful, practiced. The kind of voice that had delivered bad news 1,000 times before. I couldn't see his face, but I could imagine it calm, detached, already moving on to the next patient in his mind. He spoke slowly, explaining something I already understood, without hearing every word. There was hesitation in his tone, but no hope. Whatever he said next made the room go still. Then I felt them. My brother, Michael Carter, and my wife, Emily Carter. They stood close to my bed, close enough that I could almost feel their presence pressing down on me. These were the two people who were supposed to fight for me, to hold on when everything else slipped away. The people I trusted more than anyone else in the world. If there was anyone I believed would be there in my final moments, it was them. But something was wrong. There was no panic in the air, no desperation, no whispered prayers or trembling voices, just quiet, a cold, unsettling kind of quiet that didn't belong in a room where a life was fading. I waited, I listened, hoping, no, expecting, to hear something human, something real, a crack in their voices, a sign of grief, anything. But instead, there was only the faint sound of a watch being adjusted, the soft shift of weight from one foot to another, and the distant hum of the machines keeping me alive. The doctor said something else, something final, and then his footsteps began to fade, leaving the room behind as if nothing more could be done. And that's when the silence changed. Not softer, not heavier, but sharper. Like something hidden was about to surface. I felt Michael step closer. I knew that presence too well, that familiar nearness that once meant loyalty, brotherhood, family. For a moment, I almost held on to that memory, clinging to the idea that maybe, just maybe, I was wrong about what I was sensing. But the air didn't lie. Neither did the tone that followed. Michael's breath came closer, slow and deliberate, as if he wanted to make sure no one else could hear him. His voice dropped to a whisper, but in the silence of that room, Every word cut through me with perfect clarity. "The power of attorney is signed," he said, calm, almost satisfied. "By the time he wakes up, the company will be sold, and the money will be in our accounts." For a moment, I thought I had misheard him, my own brother, the same man I had trusted with everything, standing beside my bed in Boston, talking about me like I was already gone. But before I could even process it, another voice followed. "Emily." There was no emotion in her tone, no hesitation, just a quiet, cold certainty that felt sharper than anything Michael had said. She didn't respond with shock or even a question. Instead, I heard the faint click of her watch as she adjusted it on her wrist. "Good," she said flatly. "We've wasted enough time already." The words hit harder than anything else. Wasted time. That's what I had become to her. Not a husband fighting for his life. Not a man she once claimed to love. Just time wasted. I wanted to scream. To move. To open my eyes and prove them wrong. To show them I was still here. Still alive. Still listening. But my body refused. Trapped. Completely trapped. Michael let out a quiet breath, almost like a release of tension. Once the deal goes through, everything transfers cleanly, no complications, no questions. There was a pause, and I could almost picture the faint smile on his face. "It's actually perfect timing." Perfect timing. The words echoed in my mind, twisting into something darker with every second. My entire life, everything I had built, reduced to a moment of opportunity for them. Emily shifted slightly, her heels making a soft sound against the floor. "And what about the board?" she asked, her voice still calm, still detached. "Anyone suspicious?" Michael let out a small, confident chuckle. "They think he's done. The doctor basically confirmed it. No one's going to question a transition now, especially not with me stepping in." Of course, it all made sense now. The sudden closeness. The way Michael had been more involved in the company lately. The subtle questions. The interest he had shown in things he never cared about before. It wasn't concern. It was preparation. And Emily, the late nights, the distance, the way her voice had changed over time, becoming colder, quieter, like she had already begun to detach herself from me long before this hospital room. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't panic. This was planned. Patiently, quietly, I lay there, forced to listen as the truth unfolded piece by piece, each word stripping away another layer of the life I thought I had. Michael stepped even closer, his voice lowering again. "By the time anything becomes official, it won't matter. He won't be around to see it." A brief silence followed. Not the kind filled with doubt, but the kind filled with agreement. Then Emily spoke again, her tone sharper this time, almost impatient. "Let's go. This place smells like failure." No hesitation, no final glance, no goodbye, just footsteps. Slow at first, then fading as they moved toward the door. Each step felt heavier than the last, like something inside me was breaking with every sound. I waited, holding on to the smallest, most desperate hope that one of them would stop, turn back, say something, anything, that would prove I was wrong about them. But the door opened, and then it closed, leaving behind nothing but silence and the quiet, crushing weight of betrayal. The door closed with a soft click that sounded louder than anything in the room, as if it had sealed something final behind it. Their footsteps faded down the corridor, growing distant until even the echo disappeared. And just like that, they were gone. No goodbye. No hesitation. No reason to stay. The steady beep of the monitor filled the emptiness they left behind, each pulse reminding me that I was still alive even if I had just been abandoned like I wasn't. The room felt different now. Colder. Heavier. Like the air itself had changed. I lay there, trapped in my own body, staring into nothingness behind closed eyes. The silence pressed against me, thick and suffocating. Somewhere beyond the window, the city of Boston continued moving, alive and unaware. Cars passed. Lights flickered. Life went on as if nothing had happened. But inside this room, everything had changed. I tried to focus on the small things, the faint hum of the machines, the distant murmur of nurses passing by in the hallway, the subtle rhythm of my own breathing. Anything to distract myself from the storm building inside my mind. But it was no use. Their voices replayed over and over again. The power of attorney is signed. The company will be sold. This place smells like failure. Each sentence carved deeper than the last. This wasn't just betrayal. It was calculation. Cold. Precise. Planned. And I had been blind to all of it. Memories started to surface, uninvited and relentless. Moments I once trusted, now twisted into something else. The way Michael had started asking more questions about the company. The way Emily had grown distant, her smiles fading, her words becoming shorter, emptier. It had all been there. I just didn't want to see it, because believing in them was easier than facing the truth. A tear formed at the corner of my eye, but I couldn't even feel it fall. My body remained still, unresponsive, as if it had given up completely. But inside, something was shifting. Something was breaking. And something else was forming in its place. The pain came first. Sharp, deep. Personal. Not from the illness, but from them. From the realization that the two people I trusted most had already buried me in there. Months long before my body ever reached this bed. Then came the anger. Slow at first. Like a spark. Small, controlled, almost quiet. But it didn't stay that way. It spread through every thought, every memory, every piece of me that was still awake. They didn't just leave me. They replaced me, erased me, turned my life into an opportunity, and walked away without looking back. The monitor continued its steady rhythm, unaware of the war building inside me. The same sound that once felt comforting now felt like a countdown, each second pushing me closer to something I didn't fully understand yet. I was alone, completely alone. No family, no trust, no one left who saw me as anything more than a finished story. But in that silence as something became clear. They thought it was over. They believed this was the end. That I would fade away quietly, leaving everything behind for them to take. And for the first time since I heard their voices, a new thought pushed through the darkness. Not fear, not sadness, something sharper, something colder. If this was how my story ended in their minds, then maybe it was time to write a different ending. 3 days passed in a blur of silence and shadows, measured only by the steady rhythm of machines and the distant sounds of hospital life, moving on without me. Time felt strange, slow in some moments, endless in others. But somewhere in that stillness, something inside me refused to fade. Then, on the third day, everything changed. My eyes opened. At first, it was just a flicker, a thin crack of breaking through the darkness that had surrounded me. The ceiling above was unfamiliar, too bright, too sterile. My vision struggled to focus, shapes blurring in and out as if the world itself wasn't ready for me to return. Breathing felt heavy. Each inhale dragged through my chest like it carried weight. My body ached in ways I couldn't fully describe, every muscle weak, unresponsive, like it had forgotten how to function. But I was awake, alive, and fully aware. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the kind I had grown used to over the past few days, but a different kind, one that carried absence. No voices, no footsteps. No one standing beside me pretending to care. They hadn't come back, not once. Not to check, not to wake, not even to confirm that I was truly gone. I turned my head slightly, just enough to feel the effort it took, and caught a glimpse of the window. Beyond it, the distant skyline of Boston stretched under a pale sky. The faint shimmer of the Charles River reflected the morning light, calm and unchanged, as if nothing had happened. But I wasn't the same. Something inside me had shifted. The pain was still there, the weakness, the exhaustion, but underneath it all, there was clarity, a sharpness in my thoughts that hadn't existed before. And with that clarity came memory. Every word, every whisper, every cold, calculated sentence they thought I would never hear. The power of attorney is signed. The company will be sold. This place smells like failure. The anger didn't explode. It didn't rush in all at once. Instead, it settled, deep, controlled, like something far more dangerous than rage. I closed my eyes again, not from weakness but to focus, to think, to understand what needed to be done. Panic wouldn't help me. Emotion wouldn't save me. They believed I was finished, that I would never walk out of this room, that everything I built already belonged to them, and that belief was their biggest mistake. My fingers twitched slightly against the bed. It was small, almost unnoticeable, but it was enough. Proof that control was coming back. That I wasn't as helpless as I had been. I let the silence surround me again, but this time it felt different. Not empty, not suffocating, strategic. Every second now mattered. Every decision would shape what came next. I didn't need to rush. They had already shown their hand. Now it was my turn. I thought about Michael, about the confidence in his voice, the certainty that everything was already his. I thought about Emily, the complete lack of emotion, the way she walked away without a second thought. They weren't expecting resistance. They weren't expecting me to come back. And that gave me something they didn't have. Time. A slow breath filled my lungs as I stared at the ceiling again, my mind already moving ahead, piece by piece, step by step. I didn't reach for the call button. I didn't ask for a nurse. I didn't make a single sound to let anyone know I was awake, because the moment they knew, everything would change. No, it had to be done carefully, quietly, on my terms. There was only one person I could trust now, only one name that hadn't been corrupted by greed or betrayal. And as my strength slowly returned, as my thoughts sharpened into something precise and unbreakable, one decision became clear. I wasn't going to survive this. I was going to take everything back. The call connected on the second ring, a quiet click cutting through the stillness of the room. I kept my voice low, steady, forcing strength into it, even as my body refused to cooperate. Andrew, it's me. There was a pause on the other end, not confusion, not disbelief, just silence, the kind that comes when someone is quickly recalculating everything they thought they knew. Sir, his voice dropped, careful, almost cautious. They said you were. I know what they said. I interrupted, my tone firm despite the weakness in my chest. Listen carefully. We don't have time. Another pause. Shorter this time. Andrew Collins wasn't just an accountant. He was the kind of man who understood what wasn't being said, just as clearly as what was. I had chosen him years ago for that exact reason. I'm listening, he replied. Activate it, I said quietly. Scorched earth. The words hung in the air between us. Heavy. Final. For a brief second, there was nothing. Then I heard a slow breath on his end. That's irreversible, he said. Not questioning, just stating fact. That's the point. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't hesitation. It was acceptance. Understood, he said. I'll begin immediately. The line went dead, and just like that it started. From my hospital bed in Boston, I began dismantling everything they thought they had already taken. Not in one move, not recklessly, but piece by piece, quietly, carefully. Over the next few days, the world continued exactly as they expected. They moved forward with the sale. They finalized meetings. They smiled in boardrooms, shook hands, signed documents, believing they were in control, and all the while, I erased their access. Every account was reviewed, every signature traced, every legal pathway they planned to use rerouted. Andrew worked in silence, executing each instruction without drawing attention. Funds were transferred through layers of corporations, each one more invisible than the last. By the end of the first week, the foundation of everything they relied on was already gone. But they didn't know. That was the key. They couldn't fight what they couldn't see. I watched it all unfold from a distance, tracking updates through secure channels Andrew had set up years ago, for emergencies we never thought we'd actually need. Every notification, every confirmation, another piece falling into place. The company they were trying to sell, it no longer legally belonged to them. The assets they thought were secured, already moved, untouchable, hidden behind structures they would never understand, let alone find. Outside my window, the distant skyline near downtown Boston remained unchanged, glowing quietly at night as if none of this existed. Cars moved. Lights flickered. Life continued. But behind the scenes everything was shifting. By the second week, Andrew's voice returned through short, precise updates. Primary accounts secured. Transfer complete. Ownership restructured. No emotion. No wasted words. Just results. Each step brought us closer to the end, not just of their plan, but of their control. I remained invisible. No calls. No messages. No signs that I was awake. The hospital staff saw a patient recovering slowly, nothing more. No one thought to question it. And that gave me the advantage I needed, because while they were preparing to celebrate, I was preparing to arrive. The final step came quietly. Everything is in place, Andrew said during our last call. Whenever you're ready. I looked toward the window, toward the distant water, toward a city that had no idea what was about to happen next. They thought they had already won. They thought I was gone. I let a slow breath escape as I closed my eyes for a brief moment, gathering what little strength I had left. Then I opened them again, focused, decided. It was time to stop hiding and start showing them exactly who they tried to bury. 14 days after they walked out of that hospital room, I stepped out into the cold air of Boston, feeling the weight of every step but refusing to slow down. My body was still weak, every movement reminding me of how close I had come to losing everything. But weakness didn't matter anymore. Not today. A black car waited at the curb, engine running. The driver didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. The moment I sat inside, the door shut softly, sealing me into a silence that felt different from the hospital. Controlled, purposeful. As we moved through the streets, the city passed by in blurred reflections. Glass buildings, busy sidewalks, people living their lives without any idea what was about to unfold. Somewhere in the distance, the water near Boston Harbor caught the light, calm and steady, a sharp contrast to everything building inside me. I didn't look away. 14 days ago, I was lying in a bed, unable to move, listening to my own life being taken from me. Now, I was on my way to take it back. The car came to a stop outside a tall building overlooking the harbor. Steel and glass rose above me, reflecting the gray sky like a mirror. This was where they had chosen to finalize everything, where they thought they would win. I stepped out slowly, straightening my jacket, ignoring the slight tremor in my hands. Weakness was temporary. What mattered was what came next. Inside, the lobby was quiet, polished, professional. No one looked twice at me. To them, I was just another man walking in with purpose. The elevator ride felt longer than it should have. Each floor number lighting up one after another, counting down the final moments before everything changed. When the doors opened, I stepped into a hallway that led straight to the boardroom. Voices. Louder confidence. They were already celebrating. I walked forward, each step steady now, the hesitation gone. The closer I got, the clearer their voices became. Deals being discussed, numbers being confirmed. Everything exactly the way they had planned. The door stood just ahead, closed. For a brief second I paused, not out of doubt, but to let the moment settle. This was it. Then I pushed the door open. The room fell silent instantly. Every conversation stopped mid-sentence. Every movement froze. Heads turned toward me, confusion flashing across their faces before it shifted into something else. Shock. Michael Carter stood near the head of the table, a pen in his hand. It slipped from his fingers and hit the surface with a soft, hollow sound. Emily Carter sat beside him, her posture stiff, her face losing color as her eyes locked onto mine. The confidence she carried just seconds ago vanished completely. They were looking at me like I wasn't supposed to exist, like they were staring at something impossible. And in their world I was. I closed the door behind me, the sound echoing through the room, sealing us all inside this moment together. No one spoke. No one moved. I walked forward slowly, the silence stretching with every step. My gaze never left theirs. Not Michael's. Not Emily's. I reached the table, placed both hands on its surface, and leaned forward slightly. You were waiting for me to die. My voice was calm, steady, controlled. The words landed heavier than anything else in that room. I let a small pause settle, just enough for the weight of it to sink in. But I was planning your downfall. No reaction, just stunned silence. Then I straightened slightly, my eyes moving across the room, meeting each face one by one. Check your phones. For a second, no one moved. Then someone reached into their pocket. Then another. And suddenly, everything changed. At first, there was hesitation, like no one in that room wanted to be the first to break the silence. Then a phone buzzed. One vibration, then another. Within seconds, the quiet confidence that had filled the room began to crack. Michael's hand moved quickly, almost nervously now, as he grabbed his phone from the table. His eyes scanned the screen, and I watched the exact moment everything changed. The color drained from his face, his jaw tightening as if he couldn't quite process what he was seeing. This isn't possible," he muttered under his breath. Across from him, Emily reached for her phone with shaking hands. The calm, composed woman who had walked out of my hospital room without a second thought was gone. In her place was someone uncertain, someone afraid. Her screen lit up. She stared at it, and then her expression broke. A sharp inhale, eyes widening, fingers trembling as she scrolled, hoping, desperately, that it wasn't real. But it was. Around the room, the same reaction spread like wildfire. Chairs shifted. People whispered. Screens lit up one after another, each one delivering the same message in different forms. Accounts frozen, transactions blocked, ownership disputed. Everything they thought was secure, collapsing in real time. Michael stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "What did you do?" he demanded, his voice no longer controlled, no longer confident. It carried something new now, panic. I didn't answer right away. I simply watched. Watched as the realization sank in. As the weight of what was happening pressed down on him, stripping away every layer of certainty he had built over the past 2 weeks. "You don't understand," he continued, his words faster now, uneven. "This deal, it's already in motion. You can't just—" "I already did." My voice cut through his, calm and steady, leaving no room for argument. Silence followed, heavy, unavoidable. Emily slowly lowered herself back into her chair, her eyes still locked on her phone. "The house," she whispered, barely audible. "There's an eviction notice." Her voice cracked on the last word. The house near Beacon Hill, the one she cared about more than anything else, gone. Just like that, Michael turned toward her, confusion and anger mixing together. What is she talking about? But even as he asked, he was already checking again, refreshing, searching for something. Anything that would prove this wasn't happening. There was nothing, no reversal, no mistake, only consequences. I reached down slowly and picked up the pen from the table, the same one Michael had dropped when I walked in. I turned it between my fingers for a moment, feeling the weight of it, the simplicity of something so small in the middle of something so final. Then I looked at him, straight into his eyes. "You left me with nothing in that hospital room." The words hung in the air, sharper than before, cutting deeper now that he understood exactly what they meant. No response came. He couldn't find one. Neither of them could. A long pause settled between us, filled with everything they'd done, and everything they had just lost. "Now," I continued, my voice quieter but heavier, "I'm doing the same to you." Emily's eyes lifted slowly from her phone to meet mine. There was no anger in them now, no pride, just the cold realization of what was left. Nothing. I placed the pen back down on the table with a soft, deliberate motion, then straightened up. The room remained silent. No one moved. No one spoke. I raised my hand slightly and pointed toward the door. "Get out." This time there was no hesitation. No arguments. No defiance. Just the sound of chairs moving, slow footsteps, and the quiet collapse of everything they thought they had secured. And as they walked past me, without a word, without a glance, I didn't stop them, because for the first time, it had finally understood what it felt like to lose everything. People who betray you think they've already won, but real victory belongs to patience and truth. You tried to take my life from me. I only took back what was never yours to begin with. If this story kept you hooked till the end, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon so you never miss powerful stories like this. Your support means everything